I hope you have been enjoying the audio version of Pirates of Savannah. Welcome to Chapter 5. Please remember, you can support me, the starving author, by purchasing this or purchasing any of my ebooks at alupolilink.com. Enjoy the chapter.
Welcome. This is author Taryn P. Lupo, and thank you for listening to Pirates of Savannah. Please remember, there's a ton of extra free stuff, like videos and ebooks, over at the website, www.piratesofsavannahbook.com. Don't forget the book part, piratesofsavannahbook.com. Also, I hope to have the hardback out soon, and would love it if you want to purchase that, or maybe even give it as a gift to somebody. Anyway, I'm releasing all the audio and the ebook completely free in hopes that there's still people out there that appreciate this kind of work and will donate. And I understand if you're broke, it's a tough economy right now, so if you can't donate, don't worry about it. Just help me out and share it. I'd love more ears to hear this. Thank you so much. Chapter 5, Savannah. Patrick woke up to loud hoots and cheering. He sprung out of his hammock so fast that his foot caught the netting and he fell. His cabin mates roared with laughter that after all this time, he still could not maneuver his simple hammock. After gathering himself from the floor and untwisting his ankle from the hammock's netting, Patrick rushed up to the deck to jeers and hollering of the crew already gathered. Off in the far distance, docks could be seen, with steps climbing a steep hill. The boatswain's whistle blew loudly, and the entire crew now materialized topside. The men wore smiles from ear to ear as they slapped each other's backs with joy. A loud Greek voice proclaimed, "Prepare the robin for shore. Pretend you're Greek so you will do it right this time." The crew hollered like a church choir, "Huzzah! Huzzah! Huzzah!" As each man scurried to their job like ants on an apple. The deck exploded with activity. Patrick smiled at Jessup, Sam Scurvy, and then Isaac. All the men were grinning at each other in anticipation of landing in Savannah. But then a wave of odd feelings washed over Patrick. Something or someone was amiss. He wondered, where's Seamus? Savannah was slowly approaching. A bluff could be seen with a dock jetting from it. A long flight of stairs was cut from the steep slope. The stairs ran from the dock to the upper plateau of the town. There was a large wooden octagon wrenching crane to slide heavy cargo from the docks up a skid to the top of the bluff. The crane was the same style as the one the Robin used to lift the anchor. Most of the town was difficult to see beyond the large protective palisades or the wooden fences circling it. The crew was a fevered frenzy of activity. If the crew could have swam, pushing the ship to increase the speed, they would have. Call went out, and the men scrambled, reporting to docking stations. As they drifted closer and closer to the bluff, more calls went out across the deck to drop the riggings and slow the approach of the speeding galleon. As land grew closer, the calls went out and became more frantic. "Drop the rigging! Drop the rigging!" With no response. Furious, the quartermaster questioned, "Where the hell is the rigging mate?" Echoes called across the deck. "Seamus, you toothless potato eater, get to your station!" The commotion immediately attracted the attention of Mr. Mandrick. "Mr. Willis, go find your drunken Mick friend and get him to his station immediately," he demanded sternly. Patrick recruited Isaac to his aid, and they went below deck searching for Mr. Red's passed-out drunken corpse. They looked everywhere, every bunk, every crawl space, even the bilge. No sign could be found of him. What's worse was that all of his belongings, including his wooden pot of silver winnings, had vanished as well. Both Isaac and Patrick felt a growing dread. They knew the quartermaster would be murderous with this news, and neither man relished the thought of reporting back to him. They both begrudgingly climbed above the deck to report to Mr. Mandrick with the news. As they told him what they found, Mr. Mandrick seemed to grow taller as his rage consumed him. His face became dark and fire blazed in his angry eyes. The two messengers were frightened and recoiled as their eyes sunk to their feet. Both men were struck in their faces with one single backhand. "You all better hope he's on this ship. Summon the boatswain. Call another meeting now," the imposing Greek bellowed loudly. The sound of the boatswain whistle could be heard screeching across the deck. The crew quickly assembled in excited curiosity. The quartermaster spoke in a harsh, angry tone. "It seems the Seamus Red is missing this morrow from the Robin. No man is getting off this ship until he is found. All the crew search this ship and find him now, or there be no shore leave for nobody." Except for the few men essential to docking, the entire infuriated crew immediately began a high-speed and panicked search. As the Robin drifted near the docks, she was met by the dockmaster floating in a small jolly boat. Some formalities were shouted back and forth between the captain and the dockmaster. After some quick discussion, the Robin was waved in and led into the dock. The harbor master gave a quick thumbs-up motion to call off the cannons on the bluff, which were trained onto the Robin. The Robin drifted in perfectly and gently docked, a true credit to the captain's abilities. The Robin's crew and the men working on the dock snapped to life, working in a fluid unison to tie the ship down. A large steel ruckus was made as the Robin unleashed its noisy anchor. Wasting no time, the crew slid the gangplank onto the dock. Before any man could dash off, the quartermaster blocked the way. "Nobody touches land until the dirty Mick is found." The crew let out a collective groan, like children who were not allowed out after finishing their chores. Ignoring this order, the captain walked down the gangplank to barter with the dockmaster over the price and terms of his stay. Summoning one of his cabin boys, the captain instructed, "Boy, post this notice for auction of the indentured in Market Square. You'll see the other postings and figure out where to nail it up." The boy silently and solemnly nodded. He understood and ran off. The captain then strolled up the long stairs and disappeared into town behind the palisades. Mr. Mandrick continued to make the crew search futilely for Seamus for the rest of the long day. The men searched until sunset when they started to collect on the deck to approach the quartermaster Mandrick. "We done torn this ship apart, sir," the rigging master stated. "There's no sign of Red. I doubt the drunk was washed overboard. His belongings vanished mysteriously as well. He must have jumped ship, quartermaster." The Greek man, seething with rage. "Listen good," he shouted as the crew was silenced. "Whoever drags that Mick bastard back to the Robin gets his weight in silver. Now go find him in this damn town. Check every last piss-stinking booze house and in every penny whore's bed. But remember the captain's rules. Make no mention of his sordid past, or I'll make you all wish you were in a shithole prison in London." The flood of excited men pushed past each other as they shoved their way down the gangplank. Patrick only got 1 foot on the gangplank until he was shoved onto the deck by the angry Greek. "You four aren't going anywhere. We no lose any more, you slippery fucks. You will stay locked until the auction." The 4 men surrendered to their fate and begrudgingly shuffled below deck, escorted by 6 armed crewmen. Each of the 4 was locked into a cabin, instructed to sleep and clean up. 2 days from now, they would be auctioned off, and they could not look dirty or tired. 2 long, hot, slow days had passed. Just a skeleton crew was left to help resupply the Robin. Boxes of cargo were removed, while new barrels and boxes were loaded into the cargo hold. The full crew was only seen once a day while they checked in. The Robin's bell would ring loudly at noon, and the hungover and sleepy sailors would slowly materialize on the dock. No returning sailor reported any sightings of Seamus yet. The captain was furious about the loss of so much income. The profits on the Robin's cargo only covered the expenses of the trip. Gibbons made more gold from his servants than all the cargo he dragged with him across the ocean. The indentured servants were all profit to his war chest. The captain knew he was on a tight schedule, and he had to have the auction without the foul-mouthed Irishman. The quartermaster now presented the newly well-dressed, clean, and healthy-looking men to the captain for inspection. The extra food rations had done well in restoring them from their past skeleton-like bodies. Mr. Mandrick reminded the four men standing before the captain, "Remember what's the captain say. No mention of prison or you find yourself swimming back to England." Mandrick then escorted the men to the gangplank and down to the dock. Patrick, with his feet finally on steady land, felt punch-drunk. He stumbled and staggered, trying to make it to the stairs. After finally earning his sea legs and adapting to the constant motion of life on the ship, he now found solid earth disorienting as he adjusted back to land. The four men and Mandrick climbed the long flight of stairs and crested the bluff. They passed through the palisades, staring at the town. Savannah welcomed them with a blast of oppressive heat and rancid smells. The ocean breeze was stifled by the high walls of the palisades. Patrick was taken back. He had never felt heat like this. He could actually see heat dance in the air and felt the sticky, wet haze soak his shirt. The heat was not the only welcoming present Savannah gave to the men. Patrick swatted at the swarming insects that were biting his hands and face. It was bewildering. He could not see the insects, but felt their incessant biting. The men were swatting and scratching madly as they wandered into town. Savannah was a town under occupation. It seemed half the town was redcoats. This immediately made the four uneasy. In England, the king's army were feared and reviled. They followed and executed the king's orders without mercy. They were no different than a violent gang of bandits that roamed the streets of London, except they had nice, bright uniforms and the government's blessing. Patrick wondered if the military would still be just as terrifying in Savannah, so far from the king's iron grip of control. The men started up the street and were immediately immersed in all the activity around them. It seemed most of the town was moving toward Market Square to watch the auction of the new arrivals. Patrick noticed a stark difference in the layout of the town compared to London. It had more of a military fort feel to it, especially in the way it was designed. He was told Savannah was the colony's first planned city. The men turned the corner and smelled the livestock. They then passed the livery where travelers' horses were being boarded. There were many black merchants selling goods from carts along the road. Once entering the square, Patrick immediately noticed all the business owners in the square were white. The men approached the livestock area where a large crowd had gathered. The four men were led by Mandrick to a small wooden block and instructed to wait. The awkward Greek men negotiated with the owner of the livery about the cost to display the men on the stage. After a long session of haggling, a silver round was exchanged, and both men smiled. Captain Gibbons seemed to materialize from nowhere and motioned to Mr. Mandrick to start the sale. "Patrick, you be the first. Get up there," the Greek said as he shoved him onto the block. Patrick stood on stage and stared out nervously into the crowd. He was offended to be sold like a mule to the highest bidder, and was indignant. Captain Gibbons piped up in a loud, pompous voice, "You may now inspect the men before the auction starts." A group of men shoved their way to the block and manhandled Patrick. They poked and prodded him. One man grabbed his mouth and examined his teeth like a common horse. "What the hell are you doing? I'm no slave," Patrick angrily protested and smacked his hand out of the way. Mr. Mandrick became furious and then made a swimming motion to Patrick to remind him that he would be swimming back to England if he did not sell. The buyers returned to their bidding positions and started conversing with each other. While all this action was occurring, Patrick's eyes caught a vision. A woman was removed from the arguing and trying to keep her distance. The woman had jet black hair flowing down from her dress. Her pale face stood out of her worn red and black dress. She adorned a large red hat with a black lace ribbon tied around the backside and draping down her back. Red gloves, red shoes, and a red parasol completed the outfit and protected her from Savannah's merciless sun. Patrick had not seen a woman in almost 8 years and was completely dumbfounded. He stood and outright gaped at her while the auction started. He hoped nobody could see his full erection he was now harboring. Captain Gibbons now began his pitch. "Patrick Willis has worked for one of the finest jewelers in all of London. His metallurgic skills are unmatched and would be a wonderful addition to any craft that requires delicate handwork. Mr. Willis has performed very well as our ship's carpenter and surgeon's mate. He is lettered, numbered, and ciphered. Remember, this is a 7-year term, so dig deep, gentlemen. I'm opening the bidding at 10 gold pounds." 3 men in the crowd tried to open with the bid, and their fingers shot up. The bid rose up fast as the 3 men started a bidding war. "The bid is now 12, 14, 18, 20, 22, Gibbons exclaimed. A man wearing a leather bib and covered with black soot spoke to Patrick. "Can you make gunshot and nails quickly?" Patrick was completely oblivious to the events going on around him. He was only fixated on the red-gloved lady. Mr. Mandrick yelled at Patrick, "Lad, answer the man." Oh yes. I've made shot before, but not nails," Patrick said hesitantly. "Very good. 24, the man in the bib chimed in. 25, another man in the audience replied. The man in the bib came back, 25 and a barrel of Carolina tobacco. A hush fell over the crowd. "Last chance at 25 and a barrel of Carolina tobacco. Going once, twice, and sold upon the agreements of the parties." Gibbons clapped his hands, smiling. "Sold! Let's go over there and work out this contract," the captain motioned. "This is a voluntary contract, so both parties need to agree. Look it over carefully and make sure you two meet on the level," the captain stated. "What are you known by, good sir?" Patrick asked. "My name is Archibald Freeman, and I'm glad to know you." He extended his filthy black hand to Patrick. "Name's Patrick Willis," he responded, and shook Freeman's hand firmly. "Good. Let's look-see this contract together," Archibald proposed. The contract read, "This indenturee witness that Patrick Willis doth voluntarily put himself servant to Captain Gibbons of the Robin, to serve and said Captain Gibbons and his assigns, for and during the full space, time, and term of 7 years from the first day of the said Robin's arrival in Savannah, during which time and term the said master and his assigns shall and will find and supply the said Patrick with sufficient meat, drink, apparel, lodging, and other necessities befitting such a servant. At the end of the expiration of this said term, the said Patrick will be made free, and receiving and according to the custom of the country. Provided, nevertheless, and these presents are on this condition, if the said Patrick shall pay the said Captain Gibbons or his assigns 25 gold British pounds and a barrel of tobacco, in 21 days after his arrival he shall be free. In the above indentured and every clause therein absolutely void and of no effect. In witness, the said parties will have undue interchangeably put their hands and seals the 21st day of June, in the year of our Lord, 1739, in the presence of these men. Addendum. Captain Gibbons of the Robins assigns this agreement to Archibald Freeman of Savannah. Signatures, Patrick Willis of London, Captain Gibbons of the Robin, Archibald Freeman of Savannah. This document is lettered in triple. Patrick snickered at the notion that this was a voluntary contract, as if he had some sort of choice. He could voluntarily choose to say no and be cast out to sea, or accept this one chance to eventually be free. He forced his heavy hand to sign the next 7 years of his life away under duress. Mr. Freeman then handed a bag of gold to the grinning Gibbons and arranged delivery of the tobacco. Both men, the captain and the blacksmith, then signed and sealed the deal in spittle. They were interrupted by the sounds of Mandrick and Isaac arguing. "Take that little Jew hat off for the auction," Mr. Mandrick barked angrily. "I will not," Isaac replied stoically. "I will rip the goddamn hat from your Jew head if you don't," Quartermaster threatened hotly. Isaac stepped on the block and stated coolly to the captain, "I'm ready to start. Open the bids." The captain, annoyed with all this, just went along with Isaac's notion and called for the inspection, but no men approached. The crowd of buyers stepped back in silence. The captain continued anyway. "Isaac Schwartz is a large, hulking man with a very strong back and could do the lifting of 2 men. He was trained to collect bad debts and is a trained pugilist who is very handy with his large fists. He would be excellent in security or as a sentry. On my ship, he was trained as a gunner. I enthusiastically opened this bid at 20 gold pounds." The crowd was silent as awkward stares fell upon the captain. Gibbons went on. "Anyone? Anyone at all? Very well, I will keep him as my gunner. Going once, going twice." A shout came from a frail, tall, gray-haired man wearing a yarmulke. "Wait, I bid 20 pounds. "Very good. Going once, going twice. Sold," the Robin's captain shouted. The 3 men came together to examine the contract. "Shalom. I'm the town doctor, Dr. Daniel Nunes. Glad to meet you," the doctor offered politely. Isaac replied, "I have no training in treating ailments, sir. I have no idea why you bid on me." The doctor grinned. "Anyone brave enough to refuse to remove his yarmulke to these Christians is a man I wish to call friend." Both Jewish men smiled and quickly signed the contract with Captain Gibbons. Next on the block was Sam Scurvy. Although his legs were bowed, he was very able now. Once the crowd found out he was a master fisherman, a furious bidding war started and ended at 23 gold pounds. Purchased by a local fisherman, Sam was happy to get hired for a job he already knew and loved. The last man was Jessup, who, even still, nobody knew anything about. He refused to talk about his past, so Captain Gibbons embellished his sailing experiences. Jessup had a weathered look of a seasoned sailor, so the tale seemed believable. When the bidding opened, not one soul in the crowd placed a bid. As Gibbons was about to close the auction and walk away, a colored man approached him. "Captain, I'll buy 'em for 15 pounds. The black man said. Some of the crowd jeered and stayed to watch. "You want me to sell you a white man? What possibly for?" Gibbons was befuddled. The colored man answered flatly, "I own a whaling ship and need men. Does my gold spend?" Captain looked at Jessup. "It is up to you, Jessup." "Well, if I have to go back with you, I'll be swimming back to London, so what choice do I have?" Jessup offered sarcastically. "Fine. Let's do a contract. Your money spends with me," the captain snipped. The crowd watching was outraged, but could do nothing about the sale but grumble. Patrick and Archibald observed this sale, and Patrick asked, "Is an African savage really allowed to be a ship captain in these colonies?" "The color folks are not slaves here," Archibald answered. "At least for a little longer, but rumors be that is changing. Yes, a black man can be captain, but only in whaling. Whaling is the only profession where a man is not judged by the color of his skin, but his performance." Archibald continued. "It is so dangerous that most of the crew will be dead within 2 years. When a job is that grave, every day a flirtation between life and death, a man's skin doesn't seem so important." He then instructed Patrick to say his goodbyes. Then they had to get to the shop. Patrick shook his friends' hands and exchanged partings, agreeing to get together in their free time if they could. He also reminded Isaac, Sam, and Jessup of their promised meeting years from now at the inn. Patrick could not help but smile as he walked away and saw Captain Gibbons fade off into the distance into the crowded streets. Archibald led Patrick through some winding alleys and then stopped in front of a house. In the yard were a covered pit and a large anvil. The house looked like all the others around it. It was a small, humble building with a pitched roof and 2 windows on each side of the door. A small building used as a workshop was in the backyard. Opening the front door of the little house and smiling warmly, Archibald offered, "Come in and meet the family. I bet you're ready to rest a spell and eat some fresh victuals."